How's it going, guys? Mike from PHP Podcast here, and today we're going to be doing something a little different. We're going to be talking about MLMs, specifically LuLaRoe, kind of pyramid scheme stuff, and the impact it has on us resellers and just the side hustle community at large. All right, so I know that this is a little bit different of an episode, but I feel like this warranted discussion, especially with the recent Amazon Prime documentary that came out, LuLaRich, which kind of exposed and went into detail into LuLaRoe as a company, kind of their founding, the impact it's had on so many of their consultants. It's a really good, it's a 4-part documentary, probably about 3 hours total in length if you're to watch it all. And I highly recommend checking it out. There's a lot of really interesting stuff there, even if you're very familiar with what MLMs are, and maybe you're like, yeah, I get it, that's kind of a scam. It's still very enlightening, and maybe you've got family members who've gotten involved in that kind of stuff, and it'd be nice to look at that.
It's not a pyramid scheme. It's not even a scheme per se.
And this is coming from a perspective of, I've got a lot of familiarity with MLM, so my grandpa was really, really big into Amway when he was a younger guy, and he did really well there, but it also caused a lot of problems in the family. And then also my parents got into a lot of pyramid schemes, some of them kind of the MLM stuff, some of them legitimate envelope sending money to people and sending out to a bunch of people, then you're just gonna have money coming to your door. So I've been impacted by these types of things that have been very detrimental. And what really bugs me about this whole situation, a company like LuLaRoe, which, to be fair, when I watched the documentary, I was very impressed with the way it was founded, with the way the owner, the lady who started it, her hustle. I mean, she was a legitimate hustler. She was going to, swap meets, and she found somebody selling dresses kind of cheap, and she decided that she could sell them to her friends for more. So she started off kind of like a reseller, doing the things that we talk about on PHP Podcast. Then she started making her own clothes, which is very, again, that's a very admirable thing. I'm totally stoked with the type of hustle she put in. But it quickly grew and turned into something else, turned into a different animal completely, and it impacted a lot of people. And one of the reasons this type of stuff is so, it kind of hits a soft spot for me, is because I am really big, I've talked about it a lot on the podcast, on trying to really free families, giving people some freedom, giving them options so they're not stuck in a 9-to-5, so they have freedom to make choices in their life. My wife now stays home and helps full-time with the reselling. And you can see I'm in my shed right now. We've got a lot of random stuff that I resell, and reselling has totally changed our life. But we're very big on PHP Podcast about talking about the fact that it's a hustle. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. It's not a guaranteed success. But the business model of buying things low and selling high, it works, and it can be very successful. But what I've seen is a lot of companies will prey on stay-at-home moms or women who want to stay home with their kids. They want to spend more time with their family, which is what I'm all about. And then they sell them this dream, this part-time work, full-time pay. It's going to be super easy. You're going to make lots of money. And then people end up going into debt trying to get into businesses like this. They end up losing sometimes their family. They lose money. They lose all kinds of things. And there are those who are successful. There's a very small minority at the top of these types of companies that do well. But again, it's usually at the expense of those below them. What's really interesting about LuLaRoe is my wife and I actually almost considered getting into it. Back in about 2014, so LuLaRoe really started in 2013. And back in 2014, my wife was seeing the stuff being sold on Instagram. People were showing it, and they had really, desirable maxi skirts and that type of stuff. And my wife was like, these are really cute. People are selling them on social media. And the reality is they kind of had the sweet spot. Social media is really what allowed them to blow up the way it did. And when we were looking at getting into it, it wasn't quite the same level of just getting people to sign up underneath you. It was more of you were actually buying product wholesale and you were selling it. It made sense of why the buy-in cost was so high. I've got to buy this product, I've got to sell it. But the model quickly shift from, just trying to sell product, which a lot of people were very successful at, they did well at, to people are now trying to get people to sign up underneath of them. And they showed some pretty interesting facts in this documentary. One of the things they talked about is essentially In order for a person to make a lot of money in a company like this, and those at the top were, you have to have several people, several layers below you, right? So it's kind of the idea of where the pyramid scheme thing comes from. And there's a difference between legally an MLM, which is legal, and a pyramid scheme. And the difference is an MLM actually has to sell a product. But in a situation like LuLaRoe, the vast majority of the income people were getting was wholesale signing up new consultants and not actually selling product to consumers. And that's where things got really kind of fishy, and a lot of people kind of lost a lot because the people at the top of these companies were making a lot. They had a lot of people signed up underneath of them. But one of the statistics they showed is essentially, in order to make money, you have to have the people sign up below you and below them. But they said that at the rate it would have to go at in order to make a good profit in the company, it would have to go like 14 layers. And by the time you get to 14 layers, you've already, I think it was like doubled the Earth's population or reached the Earth's population of people that are just buying, right? And to buy into a company like this, like the minimum number that you could buy in at was, 6,000, somewhere between 5,000, 6,000, all the way up to $15,000 to buy product. So what was happening is people were signing up consultants, the consultants were buying, and then the people who signed them up were making commission off of the wholesale. So where this is really an issue is it wasn't how much money they sold or how much product they sold you got a commission off of if somebody you signed up, but it's how much they bought. So what was happening is people were buying, $10,000 worth of leggings, and the person who signed them up and the person who signed that person up all the way up the food chain was getting a chunk of that money of the wholesale buy. But again, as the competition grew, more and more people are selling this product. You're really only selling to consultants. The consultants buying $10,000 purchases of leggings versus actually selling the product. I mean, people were bonusing 50 to 100,000, sometimes even more. Some of the top consultants were making $2 million a year in bonuses, not off of sales, but just off of their bonuses. How much they actually made selling product was almost nothing. So the bonuses were the fact that people were signing up, buying tons and tons of product to sell. And then what really went wrong is the company's product really took a dip. Obviously, there wasn't enough consumer base for the number of people who were signing up. One of the things that really went wrong with them quickly was they grew so fast. I mean, they went from just a couple of consultants from the very beginning, which again, very legitimate. The lady was making the product herself. She found somebody who would be willing to sell it. She sold it at wholesale price to them. But as they grew, they got to the point where they couldn't even keep up with the demands. There were people who were on waiting lists for 2 months plus just to get their consultant call. They paid the money, they're waiting in the list, and they're waiting to be approved so that they can actually get their product to start selling. So they said at some points they were signing up 500 or more consultants a day. They're just signing up consultants to sell this stuff who are paying $5,000 to $10,000 to get product, and they couldn't keep up the product. So the product, the inventory itself, the quality kept going down and down and down. And they were at one point like storing inventory outside. So like all of their leggings were getting rained on, moldy. People were getting leggings that had rips in them already. They were paper thin. The designs were like really weird, like some pretty interesting stuff, the way like some of the patterns were lined up on the pants. And so people were getting leggings that literally smelled terrible. They were like rotting, they were moldy. But the problem is the company wouldn't take them back. Their motto essentially was, you bought the product, it's yours, you own it now, you need to sell it. And they tried to put all the blame on the consultants. Well, if you can't sell it, if you can't figure out a way to sell it, this is your fault. This isn't our fault. And one of the things legally that MLMs have to do in order to not be considered a pyramid scheme is they have to offer returns on the investment. So if you buy product, you don't end up wanting to sell it, you can send it in for a return. And the bonuses can't be based off of signing up consultants and wholesale, but rather the product sale. So they made that shift around 2017. They shifted their market, they shifted their structure, as it were, so that people could return their items. So there was less of an issue with signing up, and a lot of people signed up as soon as that came out. Like, hey, if you don't sell product, you can send it back. We'll give you a full refund for it. And they shifted their market, or they shifted their structure so that people were bonusing off of the sales of product of the people below them and not on signing people up. Or the wholesale purchases. So that kind of gave them a little bit more leeway. It made it seem like they were less of a pyramid scheme. But within just months of making that and thousands of people signing up, at one point they had 90,000 consultants. they switched it to, sorry, we're not going to take any more refunds on product. And so there were a lot of people who had literally $15,000 to $20,000 worth of product they couldn't sell because it was moldy, stinky, ripping. The company's name was just going down the toilet, and the company wouldn't take the product back. It's like, hey, this is your fault. You bought it. Sorry for you, and people are stuck, and it ruined a lot of lives. So what LuLaRoe did really well is they sold the dream. They sold the dream to, mostly they were targeting women, stay-at-home moms or women in the workforce who wanted to stay home with their family. And they essentially sold this dream of, look, you can be like these people who are making more than full-time pay with part-time work. It's so easy. You can do it. They had huge events, and their top tier sellers it almost ended up becoming like a cult of personality. In a lot of ways, there were very cult-like things that would happen in a group like this. In fact, people who decided to leave because they saw things were going down and things were bad, and maybe they weren't happy with the fact that they were signing people up and people were getting bad product. If you left the company, you were ostracized, even if you were such a huge part of the company. And so very cult-like in a lot of ways, but they sold this dream. And in one part of the documentary, they discussed that they were even selling this pitch of retire your husband, right? You're doing this, you're making all this money, make enough that your husband can stay home and help you with the business. And it was sold as this idea of this can be a family thing that you can do together. But what was really happening is once husband and wife are both working for this company, they basically have sold their soul to this company. This company owns them. They can't easily walk away from it. And so when the company's pushing them to spend certain money certain ways, to look a certain way, to hashtag, they had like quotas of how often they had to hashtag things happening good in their life and thank you, LuLaRoe. And if they weren't doing those things, in a lot of ways, they were receiving a lot of pressure and a lot of issues coming down on them. And so they had to kind of comply. That's where some of the cult-like stuff came from. And it was selling this dream. And so it really bugs me because, again, right now I'm sitting in a shed, an eBay shed that we have with no air conditioner on because I want you guys to be able to hear me, but it's hot. We are often working in the heat in this shed. My wife and I live in a fifth wheel so that she can stay home with our kids. And I make good money as a teacher. I'm a full-time teacher. And we do pretty good with eBay, but we have to hustle really hard. And we want to spread the word that this is something you can do. I love the idea of families being together, working together. I think it's amazing. I think it's something that's missing in our culture. I think families working together is a very positive thing. But when you sell the dream of this is going to be so easy, it's going to be great, you can do this without much work, and people are quitting jobs and they're going into debt. One of the popular things that was kind of talked about in there and it made the news and stuff is people couldn't afford the money to buy into LuLaRoe. So what they were doing is it was like, do anything you can, sell stuff in your house, sell breast milk if you have to, right? Whatever you have to do to get enough money to buy this product. And they'd buy this product, and the people who were buying product, even the people who were very successful, they were often showing that, look, I'm actually kind of breaking even by the time I get the product, do all the marketing for it, try and sell it, host the parties, do all the shipping. I'm breaking even, but I make my money by signing up my friend next door to pay $10,000 or $15,000. So I'm going to make some money off of that. And so it can't go on forever. It's this perpetual thing, and it's this continual selling the dream, and you have to sell it like a dream in order to get someone to sign up underneath you. And it just breaks my heart to see so many families devastated by a company like this. And, I'm at a point now where I don't think I'm going to sell any more LuLaRoe stuff. I don't sell a lot as it is. I've had a couple of lucky scores where I've been at garage sales and somebody's cleaning out their inventory, and I've been able to buy pieces for like 25 cents a piece. And when I do that, it's like great, because then I can bundle it on Poshmark with other things. I can throw it on eBay for like quick $5 sales. Nothing big. But then I've been in a lot of garage sales where I'm trying to buy LuLaRoe from people, and I'm willing to buy out their entire inventory. And it's the same thing. Like, yeah, I'll give you like 25, 50 cents a piece. And you just see them like, no, I can't. I have to recoup my costs. I have to sell these for $15 a piece. And I'm just, before I used to almost be like unsympathetic of like, well, you're crazy. Like, how are you thinking you can get that from a product that just isn't worth it anymore? It doesn't have the hype. It doesn't have that cult following. But then after watching this documentary, I feel really, really bad for a lot of these people because they believed this. They did something that they thought was going to give them financial freedom, and now they're stuck and they don't know what to do with this inventory. They can't sell it back. LuLaRoe has lost many lawsuits. They lost one against Washington State, actually sued them for for being a pyramid scheme and won. It was like a $4.5 million settlement. And so when you see this, you see people getting sucked into it. And I hope that in Pure Hustle Podcast, what we do, and I'm like super hardcore sweating right now. Sorry, kind of gross. Shouldn't have like sweat just beating off me. But see, this is how much we love you, right? Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm willing to sit in a shed and sweat to talk about something that I think is important for the community, because I don't want to see people getting into even reselling, thinking that this is going to be easy. I'm quitting my job tomorrow, right? Reselling can be very, very beneficial. It can make you a lot of money, but it's work, it's grind, it's a lot involved in it, and it's not a guaranteed success. I think it's more of a guaranteed success than a lot of other things, because, I buy something for $1, right? I pick up this little trinket for $1, and I know I've looked at them. The comps are going for $15, $20. It's going to cost me $3, $4 to ship this or something. I know I'm going to make $10. I get enough of those. Some don't sell. Oh well, I'm going to make my money. But it's work. It takes effort. My wife gets to stay home because we sell random stuff like this, right? Like, this is amazing. But I didn't have to go out and spend $10,000 and get in debt. I literally started reselling with like $30. That was it. It was like $20, $30. I'm going to go out to some garage sales. As I saw success, I was able to scale to what was comfortable to me. And I've got value in this stuff. I never have to worry about returning it. I can sell it, or I can hold on to it until I sell it. Whereas something like LuLaRoe, the value just drops and drops and drops. And so I guess the whole point of this is we'll probably do at some point, Orlando and I will do an actual reaction video, or we'll look at some clips from it, discuss it. But I just I felt like this warranted some discussion, because it just frustrates me. It frustrates me to see a company that started with good hustle, good intent, and I really do think it had good intent, and people got greedy, and it turned into a multi-billion-dollar company with people running it who had no idea what they were doing, and they were more excited about making money than they were actually selling the product, creating a good product. So my encouragement to you guys, if you're involved in anything like that, recognize that making money is going to take a lot of work, and the more you think you're going to make, if you want to make the $100,000 a month bonus checks at a company like LuLaRoe, either one of two things is happening. One, you're going to have to work really, really hard to get there, or be lucky to get there in the first part. But know that a lot of that money is going to come from the 80% of people who have nobody beneath them. They can't get any consultants, and they've literally just lost money. And that's all that happened, is they took money from other people who believed the dream. All of that being said, I really do believe that you can do it. You can have financial freedom. You can have your family, your wife stay home if that's what you want. You could stay home. You can work and make a living doing reselling, or you can use it as supplemental income, kind of like we do. But it's going to take work, and we hope that you continue to learn from Pure Hustle Podcast and other people in the community who are willing to share the realities of reselling. That you're not going to be able to just sign up for an Amazon course and be able to sell millions of dollars overnight without even doing anything. It's going to take work, but if you're listening to our podcast on a regular basis, you know that it's possible, you can make it. And that being said, make sure to stay real, relevant, and reselling. Peace.